Hello.
Namaste.
Blessings to you. How are you today?
Dhanyavad. I'm doing well.
Dhanyawad. I wish this could be in Hindi.
Doing well today. So good to see you, Swati.
You too. How have you been, Jerome?
Been amazing. Been
Oh.
amazing. Yeah, we just now finished earlier, just a few minutes ago. We did a meditation session. We do it every day,
Mm-hmm.
and we just finished it with the group here. So feeling very
Lovely.
refreshed.
Oh, that's lovely. That's lovely.
Yeah.
I've seen you do Qigong and it's very inspirational. Thank you for doing that for yourself and for people online as well, sharing this beautiful practice.
My pleasure. My pleasure. It's been some years now. We've been going every day, for some years now, and it's just you feel, the fruits of, the practice. You really do feel the compounding interest that you really do feel the results,
Yes.
and it is, it's reminiscent and it's relatable because I know you have your own practices as well, Swati, that you tap into and that you tune into on a daily basis. And so I'd love to hear more about, what gives you life, what nourishes you, what flourishes you, and what keeps you blossoming and blooming these days.
So many things, so many things. Just tapping into each now and responding to the moments. And some days we forget, some moments we remember. But just like this play of remembering and forgetting. And then each time remembering comes with a deeper understanding and a deeper awe. And just surrendering to that more and more and more. And understanding our designs, understanding how our bodies function, how our minds function, and how there's like a synastry in both of them. And I'm sorry, like my life would be a little confusing because sometimes I forget words in English, but uh, just flow with that.
Oh, good. Oh, good. So, just flowing where the energy's growing, and where the energy's going, what it's
Mm-hmm.
revealing and showing, you know?
Yes.
So
Yeah.
definitely, Swati, I saw that it's called the Realignment Sanctuary. I love how
Mm-hmm.
this is like Swati's Realignment Sanctuary is such a beautiful, it feels like a gathering, like a collective, like come into the sanctuary to get realigned,
Yes.
the realignment for the assignment, you know?
Yes.
So
Yes.
can you
Yes.
can you talk about that, about what made you call it that, and why do you feel like this is a space that you've cultivated in this way for realignment?
This was a name given, suggested by my friend, and I carried that on. And this is, I just wanted to create a community and a space online and offline if that's very much possible. But like online seems to be very in the new age these days, and everybody is like, we are also connecting online. It's so wonderful that we are so far away, yet it takes this little technology for us to meet each other. And that's why, like, online there's so much happening. There's like a whole different virtual reality, and I wanted to pump more life into it instead of like the opposite that's growing. Like you can also see so much brain rot and so much disillusionment and illusions also carrying over. And I wanted to pump more space of authenticity and love and even little realignments that can help people throughout the day, throughout their lives. And just wanted to gather this knowledge that I stumbled upon slowly over the years, and now I want to like spread it. And that also helps me grow so much too, because I learn so much with each interaction. I learn so much about our behaviors, our knowledge, our how we just connect with each other, how our bodies and mind connect with each other, and how there's just so much just unity and so much illusion of separation, and that I want to dissolve that illusion of separation. And so I just want to do this through practices that I have cultivated and keep learning on the way, on the go.
Yes. Beautiful, beautiful. I love this. This is like karma yoga. You know, you're like spreading,
Yes,
you know, you're spreading it all around
yes.
everywhere, you know, that the light touches, you know, you're just allowing the light to be spreading everywhere and just beaming and streaming this information and channeling, you know, just oh my gosh, you know, like it's amazing because I love how you say, Swati, that you wanted to pump more authenticity and love. It's like a heart that's pumping. You know, you wanted to pump more authenticity and love into the space, and you're definitely doing that. Because did it take a lot of courage for you to kind of step out, you know, and just kind of go out on a limb and really put yourself out there a little bit more? Because, you
Yes,
know, I myself, I'm an introvert at heart.
yes,
You know, I kind of seem
yes.
very extroverted, but I do love my alone time, and I spend a lot of time in solitude and isolation. So I would love to hear if it's different for you.
I'm also very, very private in a lot of ways,
Mhm.
but the more we share, as you might have experienced it too, the more we share our being, just how we share our being in the physical reality, how we do this online as well, the more the barriers of separation start to dissolve, the more we feel that this is not something apart from me. Like even us having this call, it is not something that requires a lot of courage. It actually requires a lot of just surrender and flow and effortlessness. And the more there's no mask and the more there's just flowing of our thoughts and channeling of our expressions, the more easy it becomes. And the more we realize that introversion and extroversion are such like a hoax created by the mind, because there's no separation, there is no difference between you and I, there's no difference between us and them, like this duality that runs through, but it's actually all in union. That's what also yoga teaches, and yoga wants to bring forth, that there is no separation, and coming together of whatever dualities or polarities we think is actually like a union, and it's a combination, it's a dance, it's a joining of hands, it's like all coming together into union.
Yes, yes. The namaskara, you know, the joining of hands, it's like the community, you know, like somebody told me community is like come unity, you know, like bringing that union with that yoke, you know, union
Yes.
together, and that we do it so
I
much
love that you
better when
call
we
that yoga.
say again.
I said I love that you call that yoga, because a lot of Westerners call it yoga, but it's actually yoga. It's like yoga literally means like yoking together.
Right, right. I've been listening to Vedanta, you know, just different
Oh,
talks, different teachings of Swami Vivekananda and
I have a
Pravya,
book right here.
Pravra, Pravrajika Divyananda Prana. Yeah. But her
Yes.
name is tough to pronounce sometimes. I have her up on my wall. She's one of the people on my vision board over here.
Oh,
It's a lady, and her name is Pravra, Pravrajika Divyananda Prana. And like
oh, I've not
she
heard
gives
of her before.
amazing discussions, amazing talks about, you know, the Bhagavad Gita, about, you know, different kinds of yoga, you know, and so
Yes,
I guess it just rubs off on you, you know?
yes, it does. Constant sadhana, even remembering satsang for few minutes a day keeps our all day fresh with this knowledge of yoga and kriya and understanding of Vedantas. Like just using these remembrances in even in small quantities throughout the day, like over the weeks, over the months, over the years, there's such a drastic growth and there's such a drastic change, but it's actually just like small little reminders, and that's what satsang and sadhana also brings, just like-minded. This interaction is also satsang. Satsang means with the truth, people with the truth coming together to discuss truth, to talk about truth, to remember truth, to fuel and pump truth into each other, into around, into the field of this reality into our auras, into just everywhere around, just pumping truth, satsang.
Pumping truth. I love this. I love this. So it's not like you're just dumping truth. No, it's
No,
like
no.
you're pumping
Yes.
truth. I love this. I love this. You know, just listening to you speak, I love earlier, Swati, you talked about, you know, because when you say these are reminders, these are wonderful reminders, and that we're remembering, that's another thing. You know, you're helping people remember, like you're bringing the members back together so that people can like remember that there's no separation, that that's just an illusion that we've kind of played into that, you know, that mental stimulation of separation or the illusion or the disillusion. So, you know, finding the solution within the illusion or finding the message within the matrix, you know, it's nice to hear these things that we don't hear every day. I mean, I don't hear a lot of these concepts and, you know, breaking us away from our conditionings, breaking us away from that consciousness that has kind of, you know, had an entanglement and just interrupted a lot of the enlightenment that we could feel a lot lighter, you know, without all the density on our shoulders, without, you know, just carrying all these boulders that we carry with all these beliefs, you know, all these belief systems and everything that we've accumulated over time.
Yes.
So, you know, when it
This
comes to, go ahead.
the hearing you reminded me of one of my teachers saying what philosophy is. Yogic philosophy or any kind of philosophy, it's actually like just talking about beliefs and just talking, because there are so many yogic philosophies as well. And you cannot say one is right or the other is wrong, or one way is more and the other way is down. And actually, philosophical aim is to tire our brains from thinking of beliefs, systems, concepts, and eventually coming to the point of tiring the brain or tiring the mind of using our energy up here, so that at one point there is exhaustion and there's complete negation of mind. And then you come to the point of blankness and nothingness. And that's why philosophizing is just talking and tiring our minds of, no, this is the philosophy, or this is the philosophy, or this is the philosophy. But actually, we're just using the energy from up here, because we have limited energy that we consume through prana or through whatever we're consuming, and then using that energy to wipe out our brains so that we come to the point of neutrality, and then be like, oh, okay, that's nothing. Like, we're nothing. There's so much talk, but it's actually silence. Silence is what truly holds the truth.
Whoa. So you're saying you arrive at silence when you go through the noise.
Yes.
Like
Same as
you're
we arrive at stillness after moving so much. So even movement of either mind or body, like tiring our bodies to come to the point of complete stillness, or tiring our brains to come to the point of complete silence. Together, bringing body and mind to the point of exhaustion, so that after exhaustion you come to the point of knowing that, oh, silence and stillness is the actual me, not the other, not the others.
wow. That is revolutionary. How long did it take, would you say, Swati, for you to arrive at that point of just stillness without all of the illness and that silence, without all of the violence, you know, the cessation of the mind? Can you recall when you first touched that point?
When I first touched that point, if I can recall it, it would be the end of 2019. And then there has been like a roller coaster, up and down, up and down. But again, coming to that same point that I touched in 2019. And I don't know what exploded or what imploded or what arrived or what was remembered or what was just just blankness that arrived. But it's always been that moment, and then ever since then it's like somewhat of a chase for that same feeling, but it's actually like every time the feeling goes deeper, every time the chase leads to like a new level of depth. but each depth is also somewhat a hoax, because nothingness has no particular depth to it. It is completely blank. There is nothing in the bottom. So there's no reaching the depths, but there's complete void. It's complete nothingness. So the mind again tries to want to reach a certain level of, or if we ask enlightened people, or if we ask people who have ascended or who say that they have ascended, there's no level of there's no point of reference. It's forever new, it's forever blossoming, it's forever changing, it's very dynamic, it's very, like, we cannot say when was the point or when was the time it happened, because it's constantly happening, it's constantly renewing, it's constantly. So yeah, if you ask when did that happen, I could say, or my mind could say, it happened during this year at this point of time. But actually that's just still the mind. It's forever blossoming, it's forever like coming, we're forever coming to that point.
Great point.
Now
Great point, great analysis, great observation, great point, that it's just all now. It's like a different, just a different now. So in that now, in 2019, when you were in that now moment, what do you feel brought you to that now moment? Like, what was the series of events that brought Swati to the void, or just that nothingness, where you were just in that different mentality within the reality?
My mind could say there were events throughout my life or even my previous lives, and then suddenly it happened. But I remember this one line by a very favorite teacher. He said that the fruit ripens and ripens and ripens, and then it just falls suddenly without return. So we never know how we're ripening, or we never know what is happening while we're ripening, or is this even ripening, or am I even ripening, or who is this I, or who is this Swati, or who is this, or what is the process of ripening, or what stage do I call that I have ripened now, or am I still more able to ripe in these concepts? But it is not in our hands. It is not. I wouldn't give the authority outside by saying it is not in our hands, but we're very tiny fractions of consciousness spread out, and therefore one consciousness of Swati cannot say that this has fully ripened and from that moment on it began, or from that moment on I flipped, or from that. It's always now. It's forever changing, happening, and now it's like I cannot catch up to it. If I want to catch up to it, I have to stay here. I cannot go to the past and think this is when that moment began, from that moment on. But I have to stay here, because if I start doing that, then again I'm caught up in the mind's past and wanting to pick out threads from my brain and wanting to pinpoint a memory or a moment. But it's actually like it's again rushing. That's why these questions are for, it's rhetorical questions always. These questions are always rhetorical, because it's for us to realize that it's the present. It's never that, or it's never away. It's always here. Like love here now. Like this moment is the only moment. This breath is the only breath that's ever present.
Wow, Swati. I
It's
just
so
want to, first of all,
paradoxical.
yeah, I just want to thank you. First of all, I just want to give you gratitude, because I love the way you're pumping authenticity. I haven't had conversations like this where, I just want to get to know you a little bit better and learn like how we arrived here. And you're just graciously and so lovingly bringing us back to the now moment and saying, we never left.
Yes.
There was never a leaving moment. We haven't arrived because we haven't gone anywhere. We never left. So just thank you for that. I appreciate that. It's very refreshing, to hear that from you. And when you're talking about, like, earlier you said, when we ask enlightened people or ascended masters or ascended people these questions, they have different conceptions. So they have different reflections and maybe even different projections. So what is your definition of an enlightened person? What would you call someone enlightened?
Mm, the one who is blissful in the now and surrenders to the moments of the happenings and brings forth presence and love and compassion, not just for himself or herself, but for everyone around them. And the one who um, makes others remember themselves and makes themselves a tool or an instrument for remembrance of for others, if that makes sense. Like, there's no enlightened person, there's only enlightened activity and enlightened thought and enlightened like, there's no enlightened persona, but there's only just enlightened. Like, I could be enlightened this moment because I'm talking about present right now, but then I might go out and enjoy and forget about enlightenment altogether and give into the past and give into the future and give into the moments, and then again come back to present, which would be this moment and now, and then resolve from responding to this freshness instead of responding to thoughts and concepts. So it's always enlightened activity and enlightened. If you ask an enlightened person, he or she would never say that I'm enlightened. He or she would never come to the moment of personifying himself or herself, because they would remove themselves from the, what do you call, the concept of a person, and they would channel what they're channeling from beyond their personhood. That would be something that I would say is enlightened.
Okay. So there's a few things to unpack. You said an enlightened person would never receive that they're enlightened, or if someone called them enlightened, they would never
I,
claim to be
I
enlightened.
feel that.
Right, right.
Yeah.
And so when you mention, Swati, of sometimes, if you feel that feeling of enlightenment and you go out and enjoy and forget about enlightenment. So is the feeling of enlightenment, or that state, is that not joy? Is that something else to be in that state? Is that not, is joy something different, that you go out into joy and then maybe come back into that form of enlightenment?
Mm, enlightenment would be, these are very paradoxical concepts, because it is always beyond the concept. It's always beyond and prior to the concepts. Like, if we are questioning enlightenment, it is all, it's forever changing. So thinking about, was that moment an enlightened moment for me, or is joy beyond enlightenment, or is enlightenment not joy or bliss or happiness, but something that is before or even after that? Like, does that still remain? These questions, I feel like they always rip us from the present, and therefore, like, answering about them very precisely would be somewhere getting ahead of ourselves, because we never know that how does that feel unless we're feeling it, and when we're feeling it, we cannot put words to it. We cannot conceptualize it. We cannot give any sort of ideation or make the other understand what it could feel like, because it is very personal and very, like, if two enlightened beings would meet, they would not talk. Something like that. Something like they would enjoy the silence and enjoy the moments without having to think about them. Can you feel that? Can you understand that?
Okay. And as you're speaking, because this is what I love about you, Swati. One of the things I love about you is you really, you know, you allow someone to arrive at the answer to their own question. So thank you just for authentically, once
Mm,
again,
mm,
pumping out this, just
mm,
the way you know best, being able to
mm,
express the way you know best,
mhm,
trimming all the fat, leaving all of the rest, just leaving it all to the side and just really maintaining the vibe of this divine, this divinity.
mhm,
So,
mhm.
I mean, there's infinity, right? It's divinity.
Yes,
So
yes,
there's really
yes.
no end to this. So when you're talking about, because I seen something lovely on your page about
Mm,
embracing the witnesshood. You called it the
mhm,
witnesshood. You remember
mhm.
where you were looking out, there was
Yes.
this beautiful expansive view, and you talked about embracing the witnesshood. Can you recall
Mhm.
what you meant by that?
Yes, I remember that moment. I went up very high on the mountain, and there was a beautiful temple of Sarkanda Devi in India. And just reaching that place was so serene because there was such quietude there, and the breeze was utterly cold. Like there was no energy to be used to even speak words. It was just complete. Like I was shivering, and it was super cold, and I could not get enough of the view. I was only there for half an hour because it was you only can reach there via a ropeway, and then after the sunset, it's like people come back down again. So I was just only embracing it for 25 to 30 minutes, and I had nothing to say. It was like for the whole 25 to 30 minutes, I was just there, and I was just fascinated and astonished and in awe of the complete, like, where am I? Because I was observing so much the sun setting and the whole like horizon completely straight, and then the mountains, snow-capped mountains in the background, and constant shivering from the cold. Like so much was happening, yet nothing was happening. And it just brought me to such a quiet place inside me, and I was just seeing everything, just like eyes open and just in awe of observation.
Yeah. And how long ago was that?
This was in December. December.
Wow. So that was just in December, so the memory is fresh, you
Yes.
know?
Yes.
The
Yes.
memory is fresh because the way that you just brought us there now, in this now moment, in this now breath, just the descriptive and accurate way that you painted the picture of being there, and the breeze and the cold and the chill and just the view and just embracing that moment. I love how you just brought us right there.
Mm.
Even though we're
Mhm.
not actually there, you brought us there just now. Like, I
Yes.
appreciate that.
Yes. It's what my mind imagined, and through words, I painted the somewhat similar sensation to the person who's hearing it. It is so funny and so strange that this kind of telepathy can exist, and even like words are such an extension of our silence, and only when silence is not sufficient we use words to describe, and then the other's mind understands, and the more in how do I use that word? The more similar you can map that experience that I had, the more our minds become like one. And then if something that two people experienced exactly happened, that's when like the separation completely dissolves. That's when like you become me and I become you from that, through that similar experience of our life, of our world, and of witnessing. So when people witness more and more of the similar, more and more there's like, without the swinging, it just comes to like a similar point, and we're just like in tune, in tune, in tune, in tune. So
Yes.
that's when
Yeah.
like there's more dissolution of otherness, there's more remembrance of union, and there's more forgetting of separation.
Mm. Swati, this is poetry. You're a poet. You're a poet. This is poetic. Like
You too,
the
because you're
words.
understanding it.
I mean, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. Like you're just talking about just that divine union that somebody can feel. Like you said, telepathy. You know, the more that somebody can relate, the more that just
Relate.
these two beings can become more magnetic, and that gravitational pull that causes us to go this way can go this way, to bring us together, to be more tethered together. I love this because, I
Me
mean,
too.
when
Thank
you
you.
think about just poetry and flowetry of your words and the way that we express as well, what would you say is someone that you've admired? You've put up so many quotations, like beautiful quotations from like spiritual masters, poets, like different things. Who has really inspired you over the years that you really feel drawn to their words in that way?
So many. Rumi is one of them. Then lots of Vedantic philosophers as well, Nisargadatta Maharaj, Raman Maharishi, and also Kabir Das ji, Mirabai. These are like Indian poets, and just the words of even like the differentiation, especially. Okay, so I studied literature when I was in college, and there was one topic of translation that was very fascinating to me because in Hindi or in any other language, if we're translating, so much is lost in translation, and this is something that I have been contemplating a lot in the last few months about how if people are bilingual or if they are they speak more than one language or two languages, there's like the mind is so much more differentiated, yet it is so difficult to express in some language that is not like native to me. Like English is not my first language, yet there's so much expression that I can express through Hindi because it has like a very different way of expression and a very different cultural tone to it and a very different tonality and words and everything that comes with one language. It is so different. And then English is something. And then what is lost in the middle is the translation part. What gets lost in the translation. That is so funny that even though our minds are so similar, you across all the way from here in the States speaking English and then me here speaking Hindi, yet something in our mind is so exact that through words and through language and through sounds and through expressions, we can understand each other. We can relate and we can become like there's silence that makes us completely not separate at all, and then there's words that try to fill the silence if there's not much understanding of what silence is. Through words we come to this union again, so it's constantly like even communication between people, between partners, between parents, between friends, it's all about wanting to feel in union with each other.
Mm.
It's wanting to connect, it's wanting to relate, it's wanting to, even through humor, even through poetry, even through like everything, like our expressions are so magnificent. They just aim at union all the time without us even realizing it. We're constantly wanting to create this unity through our expressions.
Yes, yes, I agree. And it's even more impressive, like it's even more impressive as well because, like you say, English is not your first language, and you're still communicating, so eloquently, and you're still able to get across, your words, these points that were really just, I mean, if we really think about it, we're just moving our mouths, we're just clicking our tongues, our teeth, our tongues, our mouth is moving, our lips, right? And we're just making sounds, but it's you're able to feel something from the sounds that I'm making. Like I'm able to feel something from the
Yes.
sounds that you're making,
Yes.
And you actually made me think of something because, you know, when you're in the astral realm, when you're in the dream world and you're in the astral, it would seem that, people are speaking in your own language. Like
Yes.
when you're dreaming, they're all speaking in Hindi, right? I mean, I'm
And
assuming.
other
So other
and other
languages,
languages.
well, so they're not just speaking in Hindi, they're speaking in the
Yes.
other languages that you know.
Yes.
Wow. Wow. So if you don't know the language, they're not speaking in that language.
No.
Okay. So that kind of brings a whole nother, it's a whole nother realm, because the
We
way
can
I see the
only.
astral realm,
Yes.
correct me if I'm wrong, is that it's almost like a place it's like a place without time or space. It's like a place within, it's like there's it's like an ocean, that has no beginning and no end. It's timeless. How do you see the astral realm, the dream world? How do you see that?
I see it as a reflection, and also as like Akash is what it is said in Hindi. Akash is space. It is one of the five elements, and it's one of the expressions that our consciousness can fathom. And it is, I would not say that it is spaceless, because it is space. It is holding our collective archetypes, our collective understandings, our ideas, our beginnings and our endings, and our, like, it is the space which holds all of it. That's why when people go there, they can find so many relatings and so many ways of being understood, or trying to understand situations, or trying to understand their minds. But it is a space. It is space itself. It is space itself.
Okay. Thank you.
And
Go ahead.
and like, we are beyond it. Again, the realization of something being there as a space, or the Akash, or the astral realm, and we reaching those realms to navigate and to understand. And then what is being understood is again something like, we are still not this. Like, even us trying to understand ourselves, we're still not this. We're still prior and after that. What remains is what is us.
Oh, okay. So first of all, thank you for that correction. Thank you for that
Thank you. This
correction.
is what I understand. It might be wrong, it might be correct, it might be
Well,
anything. This is
like
what I.
like you said, Swati, you said it's a reflection. It's like some people see it as a projection, but I like the way you said it's a reflection. Like it's showing you, like a mirror, it's showing you something. So in the Akash, I'd love to ask you, from your perspective, from your perception of the reflection, when you see a visual projection of somebody, in the collective, that maybe, a loved one, or maybe someone close to you, or you just have this recurring dream over and over again with this individual, like this specific person that seems to keep visiting you in your dream. Have you ever had that happen?
No. My dreams are very like adventurous most of the times. Like, I'm traveling somewhere, or I'm experiencing something, or it's not related to someone or some incident, but it's always um, like this, like I'm hopping on trains, or I'm just visiting new lands, or I'm just exploring new cultures, or I'm meeting new people. But it's not something specific. It's always like explorations. It's more explorations. It's like this world is a field of exploration, and then the Akash is another space where there's exploration happening.
Okay. So it's an adventure. You're
It's
just
an
like lucid.
adventure.
You're
Yeah.
just lucid dreaming. So you're like it's like a continuation of this sensation, like this reality. It's a continuation. So when you're dreaming, you're still traveling, you're
Yeah.
still going, you're still exploring, you're still touring the
Yes.
world.
Yes.
Okay. Wow. I feel jealous. I feel jealous. Oh my
No.
God. Oh my God. I want to go to India. I've never been to India before. I was like, let me go tonight. How about I go tonight?
Yes.
Let me
Yes.
travel there tonight. And how about that be that'd be the time that I meet you there. So, my goodness, earlier, Swati, you talked about surrender, and there's a beautiful thing that you put up about surrender. You said that we change at the speed of surrender. Do you remember why you said that?
Mm-hmm. I was just looking at a very old picture of myself, like 3 years ago, and I saw so much has changed from that moment on. And the more I've surrendered, the more easier and effortless and fast the change has been. And there is no holding on to a certain aspect of me, because personalities are forever forming and dissolving and forming and dissolving. But realizing comes from surrendering that we are neither this kind of personality nor this kind of personality. We are always shifting and always forming new personalities and then dissolving them again and then forming new again. So we're just always changing at the rate of our surrender.
Right. Right. And I love it because it's very real. We are
Mm-hmm.
always in constant change. So throughout your constant surrender, if you could just say, just, what do you feel has been not the most, but one of the most challenging things to surrender, one of the most challenging things to shed or to let go for you? What has been one of those things?
Hmm. These types of questions like put me into deep thoughts, because then I have to think about myself. and and then thinking about myself brings mind, past, future concepts. And then I feel like we I'm not escaping. Like there's so much that I have struggled, and there's so much that has challenged me and asked me to surrender more and change more. But like pointing to one specific thing would always be like the challenge would be to wanting to hold on to the idea of this is how it should be, or this is how life should be, because there's concepts and mind is riddled with concepts, and like always thinking about, am I doing like this, is this the mold that I want to fit in, or is this the personality that I want to take, and are these the challenges that I want to face? But it's always the biggest challenge is to get out of this mindset, like
Okay.
that we have something to care for, like our personalities are something that we care for.
Okay.
Like, okay, Jerome is what he's doing, but he's really not what he's doing. He's beyond what he's doing. So I try to keep conversations like this not so personal, because then we can arrive at now more efficiently, rather than getting lost in personhood or characteristics of our personhood. And
Sure, sure, of course. So we'll stay away from challenges. Like we'll stay away from
no,
that. Like
there's so many challenges, but the biggest challenge is to want to know that what past has brought us, and wanting to express it to how do I express, like wanting to express that as a or giving it life by saying that that was challenging for me, but that was just something that happened in my momentary life, and us wanting to create a concept out of it as a challenge, or as what I overcame, or as how I surrendered, or as how I battled with it, or as how it broke me down, or as how I built myself up. But these are still like moments of point in our consciousness, and this is where we are now. And the biggest challenge would always be wanting to hold on to that, like that story, instead of being here.
right, right. Thank you, Swati. You are the first person. Can I say this? I've done hundreds of interviews. You're the first person just to really make me rethink, what
Mm,
challenges are. Like why do we even label it as a
mm,
challenge? Why are we calling this a challenge at all?
mm,
Like is it a
mm.
challenge at all?
Yeah.
So
It
thank you so
definitely
much.
feels like a challenge. Like when I'm in a challenge, if I think it is definitely a challenge, I would cry, I would get angry, I would like express all the emotions. But then out of when you're out of it, you will be like, oh, like that was that was very spontaneous and very authentic of me to express what I was feeling. But now I am not that, and now I'm here, and now I will put my energy to somewhere more limitless, something which is not limiting me as I was feeling limited before. So fueling into that more and um, calling it a challenge would be again a limiting construct of it, as compared to something that is here and now, and it's always bringing us to this joy. And why focus on, like, we are personally challenged all the time. I'm sure you're challenged every day. I'm challenged every day. But I feel like when we interact, we should bring, or not should, but I'd love to bring more um, expansiveness and more possibilities and more not limitations to spaces like these.
Likewise.
Yeah.
Likewise.
Yeah.
So, in the spirit of expansion, Swati, in the spirit of just no limitation and the sensation of the respiration, the
Yes.
inhalation and the exhalation, can you talk about breath? Can you talk about breathing and why it has been so breath giving to the life that you're living, and letting other people know about their bodies, letting other people know about the power of their breath. Can you talk about this?
Yes, of course. Um, let's begin by breathing first, because I'll have to conjure what we have to talk about. So let's take a very, very deep inhale, and whatever will arise in this moment will be my response to this. response to this. Breathing for me is such a blissful act, because it rips us from notions, and it rips us from acting and enacting through words and expressions, and it just totally brings us to, like, when I think of breathing, it just brings me to silence. There's nothing else, because when we're talking we cannot breathe, and when there's complete breath, we're completely silent. And the deeper we can breathe, the more open our. This is something that I also want to express more and more, and spread more and more information and pump pump about it. Is that the ways of our breathing and how our bodies are aligned, how anatomically correctly we breathe, is it brings us to a very deeper calmness and a very deeper silence. And people with like open sinuses and their structures being realigned, and their anatomy being, their postures being correct, and their bodies feeling open and ready to inhale a very good amount of pranic energy or chi or life force energy, the more open your system is to accept that inhale, the more there will be no need for wanting to acquire knowledge outside of you, because every knowledge will be coming to you, through you, from this breath. And the more we correct our systems, because I feel and I believe, and through experimentations and through understandings of how our bodies can work, I feel that the more perfectly we can align ourselves to this frequency of correct anatomy of our body, the less there is the need to go to any other to understand ourselves, because you will be left with just so, like, such a good astonishment and awe of, like, wow, this is how a really good, deep, correct breath feels like. And it is so nourishing, and it is so full of understanding of itself, that this is my only teacher from this moment on. So I believe that just realigning ourselves and our bodies and our minds to this level, that there is nothing that exists outside of us. And when the only time we seek from outside is when we are lacking that correctness and that right amount of understanding within is when we're losing the correct amount of inhale. Because a very deep, long inhale would consist of conjuring everything that you want to know. Like it will be in this, like you are in control of your breath, and how you inhale is how you direct the energy to enter to you, through you, and to give you what you need. That is what true nourishment feels like, because you are like you create a gap between you and the inhale, and in that gap you are the creator of wanting the inhale to be wanting even like one inhale to be a certain way to nourish you. So like I step back and I sit in that witnesshood, and I sit in that control of my breath, and then I direct the energy around me, which is the pranic energy and the chi, and then I from that gap ask that this is how this inhale would be, and this will feed me exactly what I need in this moment. And like that's how like the alignment begins. That's how like we realign ourselves into this present through the breath, through our bodies restructuring, through our minds being limitlessly open and wanting to be nourished by this moment's breath. So this moment's breath will bring us all that we need when we create
Wow.
this witness gap. Yes.
Wow. Oh my gosh. Wow. Okay. So it's like
This
it's
I have to say something, that this has been this understanding, this whatever I explained was in me, but it's only through the other that it gets pulled out of me. So that's why I love these kinds of interactions, because it is not something that I know or you know. It is just something that we align ourselves to, that it just flows through us, and that is so powerful and blissful.
it is. And we're remembering, once again, it's the community circling back. Like you're remembering all these things with this alignment. And oh my goodness, just so many bells were going off, so many light bulbs were turning on, so many switches were just, clicking and just sticking with the words that you were picking. Because when you're talking about, oh man, like that this is feeding you, like this is nourishing you, it's flourishing you, it's encouraging you, it's lifting you up, it's uplifting, like this energy is gifting, and it's also life shifting, it's shifting, you know so with the breath, because it sounded like, you can correct me, it sounded like everything that we look externally, like all the knowledge, the learnings, the discernings, the teachings, as we're reaching, the preaching, all these things that we're looking for, we can find it in our breath. You're like, all we need to do is just, and like
Yes.
it's all there. It's
Yes.
all there. So it's that we are just unaware of what's already there in the air.
Yes. Or we are just not putting enough attention to what is in the air that is coming through us, because we are so busy with our minds interactions that we are not giving attention to the silence of the breath, and what is it that it's actually bringing to us, and we're not feeding ourselves through this constant breathing that brings us everything we require. And because we don't put contemplation to our breath, we put contemplation to our words, and when we speak we don't breathe. So it's always one or the other. Like when we're silent, that's when a very deep breath can completely nourish us. But when we're constantly talking through words and through that's why like a breathwork session is a very quiet session mostly. This is a very different way of arriving through words, and there's a very different way of arriving through breath. And when we arrive through breath, there is no need to explain anything, because everything is already explained within that breath, within that inhale and through that exhale.
Right. Right. And I also like how you differentiate, like there's like steady breaths and then unsteady breaths, like there's correct breathing and incorrect breathing. And, there's obstructed breaths and unobstructed breaths. There's deep breaths and there's shallow breaths. There's a lot of different types of breathing.
Yes.
So, earlier someone commented down, one of the lovely people who are watching you right now, they said that eating it obstructs. Let me scroll back. What did they say about? They said eating interrupts inhale. So, in your opinion, what do you feel like are some of the things that gets in the way the most? Because I know you said distractions, like these reactions with the distractions that we go out, these kind of interrupt the breath as well. But what is one of the other things that we don't really realize that's actually obstructing the breath that we could be receiving?
One of the things would be our minds. Our minds intercept our breaths the most, because even like when we're eating, if we are eating with the thought of, oh, this is obstructing my breath, then it is obstructing your breath. But if you're eating with the thought of, this is nourishing me apart from the breath, then it is nourishing. So mind is the only thing that obstructs the breath, because mind rips us from the moment, because within the moment, within one moment, there is no mind present. That's why it's either the mind or it's either the moment, the pure moment of awareness. So in that moment of awareness, if there's no mind involved, or if there's no mind that is filled with concepts or filled with words or filled with understandings of past or expectations of future, when that is absent, then only like the pure awareness that is present, that's when we can breathe correctly and breathe fully and breathe through not constricting ourselves with any kind of thought that actually the mind is bringing. It's a very bodily work. We do not have to understand the body. The body is very intelligent. Body works in its very intelligent, mysterious way, and our mind tries to figure out, oh, is this the way it should work, or is this the way? But body's intelligence is bigger than the mind's intelligence, and we just have to give ourselves to the body. Like when we're doing a shallow breath, if there is mind involved, it will try to say, oh, like Swati, I'm breathing very shallowly, I'm not really breathing deeply, and mind tries to like conceptualize the breath, but the body is breathing shallow because of something that is inside the body. And when we give ourselves and when we surrender ourselves to the body will come through maybe some more shallow breaths, but it will come to an equilibrium when the breath will deepen once again. And by that time, the shallow breath, whatever, why that shallow breath was happening, it will resolve something that was happening inside our body that was making us shallow breathe. For example, people who have anxiety, or people who go through some kind of stress that makes their breath shallow. And I've been through that. Everyone has been through that. This human age is filled with just anxiousness and stress at times as well, because this is a part of our experience and this is a part of being human as well. So when we're going through that anxiousness, that's when our breaths are very like shallow. We're trying to like understand what's happening to us, what's happening. And here the mind can come in and it can conceptualize it. Oh, this is why maybe I'm anxious. Maybe I'm upset with someone. Maybe I'm upset with myself. Maybe I'm trying to get ahead, or maybe I'm thinking about my past a lot, or maybe I'm trying to make up a future that doesn't exist yet. And then this is all mind, and that's why my breath is shallow. Mind is actually conjuring that breath to be shallow, because we're giving our breath to this part of our body rather than this part of the body. So when we give the breath to the body's intelligence, it will in flow come back to the equilibrium of long deep breaths. And it doesn't mean that shallow breaths are harmful. In long term, or they're just required. Like a shallow breath is required in the moment, and a long breath will eventually come when the shallow breaths work is dissolved. So when my anxiousness is dissolved through the breath is actually like a medicine. It is actually it is fueling our body with what is required in the moment to come to the point of surrender, where we give ourselves to the breath and let the breath and the body's intelligence take over, and then come to the point of breathing deeply, which calms us down, which calms our nervous system down. So
Yeah.
it's a very bodily work. We do not have to interfere with our mind with it. So it's like it's a very how do I say, like we're not breathing in that way. It is not me who is breathing. It is this body that is breathing, and I'm just witnessing that breath. I'm just witnessing that body's intelligence. So we
The
create,
witnesses.
yes, yes. That's when witnessed also comes in. That's we understand, or we try to pinpoint why something is happening, but it is happening because it is happening. And the more we surrender to that moment of not wanting to understand but wanting to experience it rather than using our mind to understand it, we just give into the structure of our body and the alignment of our body. And then, like, it could be even like a very small, for example, a very small instance. I could be breathing very shallow or very fast or very quick, and then I would just like observe and be like, oh, this is happening.
Right.
Oh, like this is like it could be so quick to happen, and it could also take such a while to happen. But we are not in time and space to identify ourselves with it. That's why when we are out of that time and space, we can just be like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
this is okay.
Yeah. Makes sense. Makes
Yeah.
sense. So what I'm feeling from you is it's like the presence, the purpose, you know, it's in the practice,
Yes.
you know? Like it's all in the practice. Like the perception is in the practice, like all of it is in the doing of the thing, and not really in the thinking of the doing of the thing, but in the doing of the thing. You know? It's like the understanding that we're demanding. Like if when we're demanding understanding, then we're not landing. It's not
Exactly.
landing. But if we're just not demanding the understanding, it's expanding. It's expanding. So it sounds like, the remedy of the respiration is the work is required. I like how you say its work is required, you know, and that it's a natural healing that can be revealing with the body's natural intelligence. Like the body is so intelligent. I also agree with you. I definitely know that my body is way more intelligent than my mind. Like so many times in the past, I thought I knew exactly what my body needed. I proceeded to give my body what I thought it needed, and I continued to feel like I was depleting when I was constantly feeding what I thought I was needing, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
So with the body alignment and the intelligence of the body and the posture, like
So
you're helping me right now, Swati,
yeah.
like correcting my posture, like you made me kind of stand up a little bit
Yeah.
straighter, put chest out, like
Yes.
shoulders back, like
Yes.
they say that we're only I'm sure you've heard this before, but there's a saying that you're only as old as your spine.
Yes.
Like when your spine is aligned, you're only as old as your spine.
Yes.
So different things about the body alignment when you can talk about as well. I'd love to hear the knowledge about the feet. You said feet are the soul of the body, and you
Yes.
talked about flat feet. So I'm one of the people that in my life I've been very flat-footed. I've worn a lot of shoes that have kind of like made my feet in a lot of just kind of weird ways in my life, and I've been correcting that. But can you talk about how the feet factor into everything, not just down there, but everything everywhere?
Everything. Yes. Feet are the first body part that touches the ground, And it is the first point of contact that allows our bodies to, for example, like our bodies are batteries. So ground is the first contact point where the organic system that we have, this body's intelligence, is placed onto that ground. And that ground also being very organic and intelligent in its own way. And then when our feet are placed onto the ground and we are aligning to the energy of the ground, right? And so the way our feet are placed, so I used to have flat feet as well. I'm still like correcting it for the most part. One of my foot is good and the other one is catching up to it. So the way we stand, like how we correct our postures, it just changes the structure of our whole body from ground up. So we are working from the very base and from the very um, sometimes English is from the very base of our structure. So this organic skeletal body, when we start correcting our feet properly, then our knees are corrected, then our hips are corrected, then our like bodies become more straight and more aligned, and you will feel the difference when you're just slouching because of a flat foot, and then when you're just open and ready to inhale and ready to expand like our system with that ground feet. And so many times it happens that we lose awareness from our feet, we lose the alertness from our feet. So like my I cannot show you right now, but my feet would like just drop, and that's when my life would feel like I would feel lifeless, because there's no consciousness in our foot. But when we bring consciousness to our foot, when we bring, it's like becoming into our bodies. It starts with that correcting of our foot. It starts with bringing awareness to our toes and bringing awareness to the arch of our feet, and the point that the mount of our feet that touches the ground, and just bringing that whole awareness. And then the awareness begins to come in our calves and knees, and the same way like our limbs get activated. It's like an activation sequence. Like it starts with the feet, and then you correct your pelvic floor, you correct your shoulders, your chest is open, your neck is straight, then your spine is also straight, and then your ribs are expanded. Like in the whole way, like it starts with bringing awareness with our feet, and it just corrects all the way up, and then you're just straight, and your spine is correct, and you're breathing properly, and your mind is clear because you're breathing properly, and your brain is provided the oxygen and the nourishment that the pran brings. And that's how like just aligning our bodies become the first modality of aligning ourselves to breathing correctly. I believe that's the body's intelligence is higher, more than our mind's intelligence.
Wow. Well put. Well put. So,
Mm.
you know, just as you're laying all this information, like I love how you're channelizing this and you're giving us this because, not very often we put our intention into our feet, into that area. Like when we're walking, I mean, I know, shoot, when I was, wearing all kinds of sneakers and shoes and just, all the things that I was wearing, I mean, I was, my feet were just slapping the street,
Oh, 1 second.
they're
Can
just,
I can I be back? 1 second. I'm so sorry.
okay.
1 second.
Awesome. Awesome. Hey, thank you everyone for joining. Appreciate you. If you have
It was my mom.
any questions for Swati, leave it in the little bubble box. Yes, go ahead.
Yes, you.
Oh,
I'm sorry, I
yes.
interrupted
I
you.
was I was saying when I was just wearing, different types of shoes in my life, my feet were just slapping the street. Like I wasn't really worried about what I was stepping on, no rocks, no pins, no needles, no nothing. It was just slapping the ground, all the time for years, for years. There was no awareness or attention to my feet in that way. And it was only when I started walking barefoot that I had to be attention. Like I had to have that awareness because you could step on a lot of sharp rocks, objects, different pins, different things, like ouch, like whoa, I didn't feel that before,
Yes.
I didn't have to feel that. I didn't have to that level of sensation, that level of awareness was not there before I was barefoot. So I
Yes.
remember when I met a lady in Italy at the Pranic World Festival. This lady, she told me about correcting the arch in her foot, and I asked her what she did, and she said all she did was started walking barefoot everywhere. And she
Yes.
said she traveled. Actually, she said she traveled to India, and she said
Oh.
when she witnessed the sadhus and when she witnessed like the sannyasis or the I think she called them either sannyasins or sadhus or yogis or guru, like whatever she witnessed, she said they just walk on the street like bare feet.
Yes.
She said it didn't matter whatever you thought was nasty or disgusting, like these people were walking barefoot on the street. So she said, if these people can do it, why can't I do it? So she started walking barefoot everywhere she went. And she said over time, it corrected everything in her feet. So is that just a way that we can correct it? Or do we really need to consciously like put our mind in that area, like you were saying before?
We can do it either way. If we go barefoot, it will be a little bit of a longer process because you're letting the body's intelligence take its slow course of correcting it sensation by sensation without interrupting with our own energy. Or you can put your own energy while also walking barefoot, while correcting the feet consciously and putting like our attention and focus and energy to that point of our body. And even while sitting you can arch up your feet, you can arch up the mount of your feet and bring awareness, and you can feel the difference that your calves will feel while just putting awareness and energy there. And together, like, we can mix the practice of putting awareness to our feet while walking, even barefoot or without barefoot, whichever way suits. Like, some people can also correct their feet while wearing shoes, because all it takes is your own awareness of the body part. And you can correct your feet barefoot as well. So it's what you choose. It's what you choose and how you put your energy to, and how you focus on it, and how you dedicate yourself to it, and how you surrender yourself to it.
Okay. This is
But
amazing.
yeah, sorry,
But
but
what?
barefoot definitely pushes you to the point of no return.
Okay.
Like, you have
Okay.
to do it.
Yeah. Because I mean, even Nabiha, while you were speaking, Swati, Nabiha wrote down here, she said, my sister doesn't even understand how I use socks in the winter. She refuses to do it even when it's snowing outside because she feels that her feet are already in prison and it's shoes and she can't imagine. Imagine socks. Okay. Okay. So socks, you have opinions on socks as well?
Mm, No
Not
opinion,
really?
no comments. I live like in a tropical space, so I don't wear socks most often. I do not.
Got you, got you. And like I've seen this sadhu board as well, like one of those boards with the nails, because they say that all the reflexology points, like all of our organs, connect
Yes,
to those centers of our feet. So if we're stimulating those regions on our feet, then we're stimulating those regions in our bodies, it sounds like.
yes, reflexology. Yes.
Reflexology. Okay, beautiful, beautiful. My goodness, the last thing I wanted to ask you, Shwati, because you put up something about fruits and mantras. That it's one of those kind of days where you eat fruit and you speak mantras. And I was doing the other day japa, like just reciting like these mantras. Like I used to, for a long time, I was reciting the Saraswati mantra, for knowledge and memory and learning, and the Saraswati, like chanting that, like 108 times a day. I was chanting with this Rudraksha mala, the Rudraksha.
Rudra. Yes.
So that was something that I was doing for a while. And I know you said that when we're speaking, we're not breathing, like we can't really inhale on the exhale at the same time. So when we're speaking, we're exhaling naturally, normally.
Yes.
And as well, it's reverberating, that sound is vibrating throughout our whole body. And
Yes.
it's tapping into like the vagus nerve, like the nervous system, like our whole body is kind of reverberating. The water is vibrating in our body when we speak. So can you just touch on like mantras and what
Mm.
has that sound vibration using your breath in this way, what has that done for your life and your day?
Mm. Mm. I've had like a few teachers who introduced to me what mantras are, and I would like to share what they introduced to me. There is no specific meaning to any mantra actually. It is like each alphabet or each sound of the mantra is a bij mantra. It is in Sanskrit there is a sound, and then the sound produces something in our body, and because we're water beings, and sound rubs vibrations off of our bodies and in our bodies and the water in our bodies. So actually words really don't, like, the mantras, they really do not mean anything other than just creating that specific vibration for our body's water to vibrate in a certain way. So each mantra is produced, or for example Gayatri mantra or Saraswati mantra is for knowledge. So every sound in the Saraswati mantra is igniting the water in our bodies to elicit knowledge. And the more awareness we bring through that mantra while speaking the mantra correctly and using our sound and our vocal structure to express the mantra, the more impact it has, because it is actually the sound that is more important, not anything else. Like, the sound is the most important part of the mantra. And the mantra, whatever mantra we're speaking, whatever mantra it's like magic spells. We're using sound as a way of igniting or eliciting a certain response from our bodies. So also Guru Mantra, if you see Guru Mantra, whatever is in the Guru Mantra, it is igniting the feeling of having a guru, internal or external, and us being a disciple, or thing that brings surrender, because Guru Mantra is something that brings surrender, the feeling of surrender in us. That's what also music does. Music produces sounds and feelings and sensations that elicit a certain response from us. This reminds me of there was a very legendary musician in ancient India, and he used to produce rag. Do you know what rag is? Rag is a like, if you've heard Indian songs, like it's like producing a tonality, of producing a vibration.
It's called,
And there was this
it's called what? Rag?
rag, rag,
Rag, okay.
rag. And there was this musician in ancient India. He could produce a rag for the rain to come, and he would sing and use his instruments, and there would be rain. He would sing and use his instrument, and there would be tears in people's eyes who are consuming it. So it is so powerful to know the very foundational sounds that ancient languages bring, whether it be Latin or Sanskrit or any other ancient language, and then us departing from that ancient knowledge and coming to modern languages and modern sounds that do not really have that kind of impact on our body. For example, English is one of the youngest language and one of the most recent language, and it cuts out so many ways in which our tongues use, our like mouths use to produce sounds. For example, even in Hindi, there are so many alphabets and words that English cannot speak. So we have like how we have T in English, T, the letter T. We have the, the. There's so much more than just one T in Hindi. There's like the, ta. So there's like a lot of mouth action that is going on, and I feel like the modern languages do not have these kinds of expressions, and this is also, like, we can say it's propagandic how limiting modern languages are, because they rip us from the ancient roots of the actual sounds that bring certain levels of consciousness and certain levels of vibration in our body. But again, this is I would not see this as a defeat, because some people might see this as oh, English is so limiting, like we cannot express ourselves in English, or we cannot use a certain mouth structure or certain sound like om, ta, tha, like use these kinds of sounds and vibrations. But I would not say this as like this is something to get saddened or to get it's not something to break our spirits on, because the truth is silence. Like, it's not words. It's not like all mantras are also doing is to come to the point of purification so that we can achieve that sense of silence and that sense of quietude. So all are just means to an end, and it doesn't matter what path you take. It doesn't matter which part of the mountain you walk from, but you will reach that silence within.
Right. So it doesn't really matter. Like, thank you for this explanation. Thank you for
Yeah.
this, Swati, because you're bringing so much more nuance to an area that has not been talked about, or at least I have not heard so much about this. So, I mean, there are so many beautiful words that I've heard when it comes to like the chitta and the vritti and
Chitta vritti nirodha.
vakshakti, vakshakti and the shaktipa, and like these powerful words that feel like they just have so much behind them, like so much energy.
Yes.
And I'm listening to you, and when I hear you say that it's not even the words, like it's the actual sound, like when somebody, like whether somebody's saying the Gayatri mantra or the Ganesh mantra or the Lakshmi mantra or the Rudra mantra, like no matter what they're saying, you're saying the words themselves are meaningless.
Yes.
Like the sound, it's the sound vibration itself. It's
Yes.
not the words.
It's not the word. Word is meaningless. Alphabets are meaningless. It's what they produce is where the meaning lies. Correct? Even in English, apple is meaningless unless we know what apple makes us remember. Like, if someone who's never heard apple before, they would not be able to comprehend what apple is, or if they've not seen an apple. That's why also language is limiting, because some things are so beyond language that no matter what kind of, like, the depth you bring to the language, it cannot be put into words, because it cannot be grasped by words. It cannot be expressed by words. So someone said language is limiting. Yes, that's why it is limiting, because what it cannot express is what it is, is what is. So we can do all our, like, we can try and fail and experiment through language, without language, with language, but we will come to the point of silence and here now moment and compassion and love and just straight understanding of this alert presence that will bring us to the truth.
So even though you know that the words themselves are meaningless, you still practice the mantras, you still recite them because
Some days, yes. Some days.
because you know what it's doing.
Yes.
Okay.
It's like, this is also something one of my teachers used to say, that these are tools when you forget the naturally, spontaneously erupting presence that you have. And when you forget what you are, you bring these tools into practice to remember or to align and realign yourself to this naturally erupting, blissful, aware, alert, focused energy that you are. So when you forget, yeah, you can use these tools. And when you do not need them, you can just experience this now without them.
Yeah. Like Ramana Maharshi, you mentioned, like just forget it, just let it all go.
Yes. Yeah, he never used anything. He just went quiet. He was just like, I'm not speaking a word from this moment on. And he just went quiet. Yeah.
Yeah. Just healing with silence, silence, pure awareness, pure silence. Like, imagine somebody like flying all the way across the world to come, seek an audience with you, to commune with you, and to get your guidance, to get your, your vibrance, your words of wisdom. And then all you do is just
Not respond. Silence is the instruction, as he used to say. That is the instruction.
beautiful, beautiful. My goodness. Shwati, thank you.
Thank you,
Dhanyavad.
thank you, thank
Dhanyavad.
you.
Thank you
Dhanyavad.
for
Thank
this, like
you.
all these testimonies and just letting people know. Please, before you go, let people know where they can find, if you have a website, if you have offerings, if you have services that people can tune into you and get in touch a little bit more. What's the best place people can go to receive it?
You can message me on Instagram. I'm always available here, and also WhatsApp. And I take free breathwork classes every week. You can also join the group, and you can tell me what you need, and whatever I have, I can share. If that can help, if that can become a tool for you, I will be most happy to give that.
I love that. I love that you leave that door open for people. So, just for anybody who's listening to this on audio right now, her Instagram, Swati's Instagram is Love Here Now. That's love spelled LUVHERENOW. Love Here Now. And we are here now. We are now here.
In love, most important part.
Yes, yes, most important. So, blessings,
Blessings
Swati.
to
Take
you.
care.
Dhanyavad.
Enjoy your evening,
Thank
and
you.
much love.
Namaste.
Namaste.
Bless you always. Namaste.
Take care, everyone.